Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the session today. Today's topic is on planning, rollout, and measuring changes effectively using ServiceDesk Plus. My name is Charles Ignatius. I am a product expert in ManageEngine, and I have over 7 years of experience in the ManageEngine's ITSM suite. And today's agenda, we are going to discuss on predominantly on the change module. So we will be talking about change. We are going to take a scenario in explaining this webinar. So the scenario that we are going to pick for the session is upgrading ESX host in your network to the latest, say for example, from version 5.5 to version 6. So for this particular change request, the impact of the host in the network, if the host is taken down for the upgrade, what is going to be the impact? So how CMDB can constitute to this impact analysis. Likewise, we'll be discussing about projects module. So when we are going to release the change, we can release it. We can execute the change using the projects module. So we'll be discussing about the projects module in detail, and we can also we'll also be seeing about the incidents that are created before the change, the incidents that led to this change, and the incidents that are created after this change, and how the review process can handle these. And we will also be discussing about the reports, the different reports that are available in ServiceDesk by default, and the new options that are available for you to produce or create custom reports to monitor your change process and procedures. So let's get started. First and foremost, I'm going to create a new change request, which I've already done for this presentation. As I was telling you before, the change request that we are going to pick today is upgrading a VM host in the network from version 5.5 to version 6. So once the request is created, the first and foremost thing that you'll be doing is filling out all the details here, like the type of change it is. It's a major change because it is involving multiple critical applications. So let's see the critical applications that are being installed and serving multiple services in the organization in the impact analysis stage. So here I'll be setting up all the details. So say for example, I choose the priority, or I choose the I set the start date here. So the start date is going to be next week, for example, from 29th, or say, for example, from the 5th of June, the change is going to be executed, and the impact of this change is high. If there is a problem in this change, the impact is going to be high. So if you could see, once I choose the impact and the scheduled start time, the end time is automatically calculated. This is done using the change SLA. So we have a new feature in ServiceDesk called change SLA, with which you'll be able to set the due by times, the schedule end times automatically based on the configuration. So let me go ahead and quickly edit this SLA that I've created for the change. So when the impact is high, it is going to set the due by time automatically. Also, based on the due by time, you can configure escalations so that escalation emails will be sent across to the managers, to the owners, to the change advisory board, as and when it is required. And the next thing we are going to do is pull in the right people to play the different part in this particular change request using the change roles. So these are the roles that are available in the application by default. So under the admin tab, you have change roles. So for each and every role, you'll be able to configure who can play it. Say, for example, let me go ahead and edit the change approver. So here, you'll be able to see that all users or technicians alone will be able to play this role. So if you choose all users, it's going to be both requesters as well as technicians will be able to play this role for a particular change request. If I go ahead and create a new change role, which I can do, let me remove this one. So I'm adding a new role here. Say, for example, let me rename it as a manager. All right. Now I can provide them all access permissions, and when I do that, if you can see, the approval tab is not available for me. So a new custom role, for any custom role that you create, the approval tab will not be, the approval option will not be available. The approval option will be available only for a change approver or a change manager. Apart from them, no other people will be able to approve the approval stage in a change request. So now we will have to go ahead and choose the right people to play the different roles. So say, for example, change owner is going to be myself, the administrator, and change manager. So whichever person who has the SD change manager role associated to him. So under admin, you have something called roles, which is the system roles, which is application roles. So here you have SD change manager. Whichever person is having this SD change manager role associated will list in the change manager section. Now, line manager, implementer, which team or which technician is going to implement this change request, release. I mean, who is going to execute this change request? Again, it's going to be the administrator and reviewer. Say, for example, in this case, let's say Jennifer is the reviewer and approver. So the difference between change approver and change manager is that change manager, as I was telling you before, is will be assigned if the technician is having a system role called SD change manager. Approver can also approve a change request. Let's say if your change managers are really busy, they are traveling, and the change approver can act as a backup. He can approve changes that are created in the organization. Let's say John is the change approver in this case. Now that I have pulled in all the right people, they would have been notified by now, and they can start viewing the change request. They can start accessing the change. So one thing that we have recently introduced is if you are going to associate a user, a requester, to a change request, then they will immediately start seeing the change tab in their login. For example, let me associate guest. Guest is a user in the ServiceDesk application that I have. So if I choose guest, immediately this particular person will start to see the change tab in his login. So if you want me to show that to you, so guest is a requester account, and immediately, as you can see, he can see the change tab. So all those changes he's a member of will be available for him, and he can take action, or he can check the status of those change requests at any point of time. All right. So once the roles have been assigned, and the next thing we are going to do is send it for approval. So you can send it for recommendation. So let's say the approval stage is resolved or approved, and immediately the next stage is planning. So under the planning, the first and foremost thing that the change owner will be doing is he will be analyzing the impact of this particular change in the network or in the organization. So let me take you to the CMDB tab in the meantime. So if CMDB, say for example, change management. Change management is a set of procedure that can be used to implement changes in the organization, whereas CMDB is the knowledge of change management. So if you are able to successfully configure and maintain your relationships, CMDB relationships between the CIs, in that case, it will be really easy for you to configure or identify the impact of the asset or of the CI in network, and based on that, can plan your change implementation, can plan your change release, and can pull in the right stakeholders and will be able to execute those changes effectively. So here, the impact, for analyzing the impact under CMDB, I have this host. So this is the host which I am going to make a change on, ESX host 01. So if I go ahead and choose the relationship map, as you can see, this host is hosting multiple critical applications like desktop setup patch management software, an application monitoring software, a network monitoring software, an ITSM tool, and also a database is present in there. So this is one of the critical hosts that is available on the network, and an extreme caution has to be taken in place before we make any changes to this host. So for further information about the virtual missions, I can just click on them and can see what are the applications that are running on them, and what are the support group that is responsible in managing those applications. Let me minimize a bit. So if you can see, this host is running these different 5 servers in it, and this server is running ServiceDesk Plus. A database is running a 2012 instance. A network monitoring software called Hub Manager is running, which is hosted on, which is managed by a technician called Howard, and is running Hub Manager's installation. Likewise, you'll be able to configure the details. So if you can see over here, App Manager Server application monitoring tool is supported by a group called Network. And furthermore, you'll be able to configure the relationship attributes as well. So a relationship attribute that I've configured is working hours of this network group. So they work from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So on looking into the CMDB graph, you'll be able to see the attributes, the relationship that it has with multiple other CIs, and also more information about those CIs, about the relationship can be achieved or can be obtained using the CMDB. Further, the advantage of having a CMDB is you'll be able to add multiple attributes for each and every CI over here. Before even I go into that part, I would like to say that CMDB is one of the least used module in ServiceDesk Plus among our customers. So instead of having or trying to planning for building an entire CMDB of your organization, bringing in the firewalls, routers, etc., I would probably suggest you can start configuring the relationship of your business service and IT service. The business service that you offer to your clients, to your customers, and the IT service that you offer to your employees, to your end users. Or otherwise, at least you can start configuring or bringing in your application ecosystem into ServiceDesk Plus, like what I have done, so that you'll be able to, whenever you make a change to any particular CI in the network, you'll be able to identify which application is going to be impacted, and based on that, the analysis can be submitted. So when I go into admin, configuration item type, in the recent version, we have provided the option to delete the default CI type. So if you can see, there will be a list of CI types available. I have removed a few. So if you want to remove a set of CI types, default ones, you can do it. So say, for example, if I want to get rid of rack, I can do that. So previously it was not possible. So now we have allowed that, and you will be able to also configure attributes here. So you can add multiple number of attributes explaining about this application, about this CI. That's going to give more information to any team who is using it, or whenever an IT change like this is going to happen, it's going to show them more information about this particular CI. And if you're already maintaining these information in the form of an Excel sheet, probably we have also provided the option to import the relationship from an XLS file. So if you already have these details, you can you can use that Excel file and you can import those relationship into ServiceDesk Plus. So this is going to be handy when you are configuring your relationship between your CIs. So now that we have a successful or a proper CMDB in place, we have identified the impact. So if you're going to take the CSX server down, it's going to impact a whole lot of applications and it's going to cause chaos. So we will have to properly plan it. We'll have to pull in the right stakeholders, get the proper approvals before we move on with this change request. So the rollout plan, you can go ahead and add your rollout plan. So before you make the change, you'll have to move the VMs from one server to another server, create a batch job to move the VMs, configure DNS entry so that there is no disruption in the service, and all those things can be added over here. You can also add a downtime so that this information will be available for the CI when anyone from the team is checking out for it. All right. So another thing that I wanted to show you before I move on to the approvals tab is you will also be able to associate problems and requests to a change request. So if there are problem tickets created or if there are incidents that are created that has constituted to this change request, you can add them here. Likewise, after the change is completed, if there are any new incidents created because of this, we can attach them here. We will discuss about this at a later point of time. Now you can click on attach under change initiated due to request, and you'll be able to see the list of tickets and just attach them. So this is going to give you an overview of how many number of users are affected because are affected, and as a result, this change request was created, who has to be notified after the change is completed, and details like this will be available for you over here under the planning stage. So now let's assume the planning is completed, and we have moved to the approval stage. Now, the important thing that the change owner will have to do is you'll have to pick the right people for their recommendations. So as we saw before under the CMDB, this particular ES6 host is hosting multiple number of critical applications that IT team is using on a daily basis. So we'll have to pull in the stakeholders from each and every, those who manage the applications, each and every applications. So you can go to change advisory board, and I've already added a CAB list over here. So let me go ahead and edit that. So the one that I've added is listed here. So if I go ahead and click on add new CAB member and choose this list, it's going to be showing me the list of users that I've already added, and I'm going to send a recommendation to all of them. Once they send a recommendation, they will be receiving an email at the same time. As I was telling you before, if they are users, still they will see this recommendation in their self-service portal. The change tab will be available for them. They can take action from there. And once the CAB members have provided their suggestion, the change approver or the manager can go ahead and take the decision whether they go ahead with the change or stop it based on suggestions, when to schedule it, and all those informations can be monitored and tracked. So now that it has been completed, the next is the implementation tab. So if it is going to be a simple change, for example, like upgrading or applying a patch on a particular server or something like that, it can be done, which involves lesser number of teams, which involves lesser process. In that case, you can use the task module itself to complete this change request. So you can add multiple tasks to this change request and configure dependencies between the tasks. I'm sure that you're aware of configuring dependencies between the tasks. When you can have parent tasks and have child tasks and configure dependencies between them, so that only when the parent task is completed, the child will be triggered and be assigned to a technician. So all those things can be done under the task module. Now, a critical or a major change like this involves probably we can deploy them using a project. So I'm going to associate a project to this change request. So when I click on new associate project, I can go ahead and associate an already existing project or otherwise create a new one. So when I click on new project, I can go ahead and fill in the details, or otherwise, if you have a template in place already, you can make use of that. So I have a template project template already in place for major changes. So I'm going to choose that. So once I choose it, I'll go ahead and provide the start and end date. Probably we scheduled it for the first week of June. So it has to be completed in 2 days. Estimated hours and all those informations can be configured over here. So once this is done, let me take you to the projects tab. So before I move into the projects tab and start explaining that, since this is an approved change request, it's going to show me, probably I did not add the scheduled start and end time. So if a scheduled start and end time has been added, it's going to show me in the calendar. So once this calendar is going to show you the list of changes scheduled for this month for a week, and based on that, you will be able to track, or you'll be able to schedule other changes accordingly. So you can come to know what are the changes that will be happening on any particular day or any particular week or a month. So this calendar will be handy for you in that case. So what I was meaning about the scheduled start and end time is, the scheduled start and end time is there. So probably okay, so actually it has to show up. Not very sure why it's not, because let's not go into troubleshooting that, but actually it should show up, and you should be able to view those informations in the thing. Here is it. I got it. So I was scheduling a change for June and was searching it for it in the month of May. Sorry about that. So it's already available over here. You can filter out the kind of changes, where how many number of major changes are present, how many number of minor changes are scheduled for a month, and all those informations will be available for you over here. So all right, so let's get started with the project module. So now that we are in the implementation stage, I have associated a project, and in the projects tab, you will be able to associate. Say, for example, I did not do anything in the projects tab. I just associated a project, and while associating it, I used a template that is already there. So if you can see, it has already created milestones for me. There is no task associated with the template, so it is not available. So if you go to admin and project templates, here you will be able to configure your templates. So when you add a new template, you will be able to say, for example, this is a test template, let's say. So provide all those details like the estimated hours and all those information, and here you'll be able to add a milestone. So if you add multiple number of milestones, they will be saved for this template, and whenever this template is used, all automatically those milestones and those tasks will be created corresponding to the milestones. So this will become very handy if you have multiple number of projects being handled, or multiple number of projects being created on a frequent basis. So you need not go and create milestones every time. You need not create tasks under each and every milestones every time. The system will take care of all those things if you have configured the template in the right way. All right. So now, after the project has been added, the first thing I'll have to do is I'll have to pull members. I'll have to add members to this project. So a user, a requester, and a technician can play a role in the project's module. So the projects module will also be available for the end users and for the technicians. So I'm going to add members here. So when I add a member, these are the default roles of those technicians and requesters in the organization. For example, the technician called Heather Graham is a project manager. A role in the organization is project manager. But for this particular change, she may not be a project manager. She is just a team member. So we can add members to the project like this. So let me go ahead and add a project manager. So in this case, Howard is a team leader, but here in this project, he's going to perform the role of a project manager. So let me add 3 more people as team members. So at the moment, we have around 6 members in this project, an admin, a team leader. All right, so let me make her as a team. All right, so let's go ahead and see the milestone. So under the milestone, you can have multiple number of milestones. Say, for example, one for upgrading the service desk, or one for moving the VMs from one server to another, creating a batch job for it, changing the DNS entry. So you can have them as milestones, and also under each and every milestone, you can have multiple tasks. So as and when you add a task, those information will be available for the project admin and for the project manager under the Gantt view. So say, for example, let me create a new task over here. Create batch job to move the VMs. This is going to be added. Let me create another task here. This is all right. So I'm going to add new 2 different tasks. So if I go back to the project, under the Gantt view section, I'll be able to see the list of tasks that are pending and the list of people that are working on the tasks. So at the moment, these 2 tasks are not assigned to anyone. So as an administrator or as a project manager, I will be able to set the people in the start and the end time here. So the start and the end time So it has been moved to the June month's calendar. So automatically this information will be taken care by the application. Likewise, you'll be able to set uh, users, you'll be able to successfully manage your resources. Say, for example, no one is assigned at the moment, but let's go ahead and assign Howard to this task. And if in case Howard is loaded with multiple number of tasks on that particular day, you can go in and change the technician, the owner of this task, directly from the application, from the Gantt view section. So this is where Gantt view will be helpful for you while you configure your projects and while you manage your resources in the application. You will also be able to export this information in the form of a PDF file so that it can be used for discussion and any such purposes. And for the tasks, if they are going to add work log for the tasks, all those informations will be available for you under the timesheet. So at the end of the day, you will be able to run reports and identify the list of, the number of work logs added, how many hours each and every technician have worked on a particular project, and all those details will be available for you. Okay, so now that let's assume the project has been completed, we have successfully implemented this change and it has been over. So once this is done, it moves to the review stage automatically, and in the review stage, the reviewer can go ahead and check whether all the implementations have been completed, whether the project associated is completed, and the tasks associated are over. And at the same time, they can also view any new incidents that are created, because after this implementation is completed, and attach those new incidents to the change request. And after those new incidents are also sorted out and completed, fixed, they can go ahead and close this change request. So here, all fine. So now I'm going to close this change request, and when I close this change request, I can directly. So if there is an asset associated to this change request, unfortunately, I did not associate an asset in the beginning of the when creating this change request. So asset involved can be associated. So if I go ahead and associate the ESX host in this section, automatically in the close stage, the scan asset tab option will be highlighted for me, so I can go ahead and enable or click on the scan assets and trigger an asset scan. So the latest information on the ESX host will be captured by ServiceDesk, and that information will be updated in the asset database and will be available for me. So each and every stage or each and every change need not go through these set of procedures, like from submission, planning, approval. Each and every change need not go through this. This is where you will be able to configure different workflows for the different types of changes that are created in your organization. So automatically, when these workflows are being used, the change request will move from one stage to another stage, skipping few other in between. For example, I have a new emergency workflow template over here. So let me go ahead and click on that and show you. Say, for example, there is an emergency change has occurred, and let's say you need to restart a server, and will not be able to wait for approvals. You'll not be able to plan and wait for all those to happen. The application has to run, so you'll have to restart the server. So this is a template that you can design for your emergency changes. So on accept of the submission stage, it has to directly go to the implementation in progress status. So immediately the submission is accepted. The implementation, the change request will automatically move to the implementation stage and will notify the different people that you've configured, and you'll be able to, the change owner or the implementer can go ahead and complete the job and get that solved. So, whenever you have, based on the different types of departments who use ServiceDesk for the change process, you can have multiple templates here. So one for your network support team, one for your application support team. So you can have multiple workflows configured, and all these workflows can be tied to a template. So under admin, change template is where you'll be able to configure your templates. So when you add a new template here, so for example, let's say this template is predominantly used by the network team, network change template. So they can go ahead and choose the workflow that you have configured for them. So let me go ahead and choose the one that I set it up recently, which is new emergency workflow. And I'm going to mark this as an emergency change template. So I can go ahead and choose whichever the default values in here, whichever are mandatory, and all those informations can be configured. And here, change roles. So do you remember we initially looked into the change roles where after creating a change request, we pulled in the right people to act in the different roles. So you need not do it every time you create a change request. So if the network change template is going to have a certain set of users who are going to play these default roles, you can add them here. So these roles can be tied to the people in the template. So whenever this template is used, they will be notified and they can take the action accordingly. And last but not least, change type is something that I wanted to show you. We have something called change type. So whenever there are many types of change requests that will be created, out of which most of the changes need not require an approval. For example, moving a user from one building to another building does not require an approval, right? But still, if you're tracking that as a change request, you can configure that as a pre-approved change, and that can be done under the change types. So under the change type, you have an option called pre-approved. So you can add multiple number of change types that you would like to have here, and enable this checkbox. So automatically, when this change type is used, those changes will be automatically approved. Once after you complete your submission, your planning, you can directly move on to the implementation and get that resolved for them. Okay. So with that in place, we have come to the end of our session. Yeah, and we left. I mean, there are more than 150 default reports that are available in ServiceDesk, and there are a handful of change reports that are available. So you can make use of them. For example, if you want to report on all the changes by their types, you can use this. Or if you want the reports on completed changes, on the costs that are involved in it, you can execute these reports and will be able to get those information. Also, if you want to get to know the list of changes that are completed within the SLA and out of the SLA on a quarterly basis, you can execute this report. So you'll also be able to edit and make changes to it. So if this is, you'll be able to make changes as and when that is required. So if you are looking for a new report, or if the kind of report that you're looking for is not available here by default, you can run a custom report. So you can go to new custom report, choose changes, and you can select the fields that are required, make use of the filter options that are available. Also, charts can be used, and you'll be able to run those reports. So when you run a report, after you save it, you can also add it to the dashboard. So under the dashboard, under problems and changes, you will be able to add the new reports that you have saved under the reports tab can be added over here, so that if you want to project this dashboard in a TV screen in your near your team, near your office cabin, you can do so. Thank you for joining the session, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.